All right, good morning, everybody. We're going to call this meeting to order. Today is September 17th. Time is 9 o'clock. If everybody can stand for the invocation and pledge. Sorry, backing up a quick big call to order. We did that in the quorum, so all members are present except for Mr. Cooper. He's going to be joining us remote, but he did send that email. Dear Heavenly Father, we ask your blessings over Green Valley, its partners, employees, and the customers. Please allow this board to make the right decisions to put Green Valley in the right path for success now and into the future. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, for liberty and justice for all. All right, thank y'all. Okay. Going to agenda item D. Consent agenda. All items listed below are considered to be routine and non-controversial by the board and will be approved by one motion. There will be no discussion of these items unless a board member so requests, in which case the item will be removed from the consent agenda and will be considered an action taken as necessary as part of the order of business. D1, August 22nd, 2024 board meeting minutes.
Making a motion to approve the August 22nd board meeting minutes as presented.
I'll second.
I have a motion by Mr. Sherman, a second by Mr. Robertson. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Ayes have it. Mr. Cooper, can you hear us?
Yes, sorry I'm late. Had problems connecting.
Oh, you're good, sir. Were you able to catch that last motion? Did you say aye on
I
the
did.
minutes?
Yes,
Roger.
aye.
Awesome. Thank you. So all members approved it. Going to item E, review and consider the GVSUD budget for FY 25 and take action as necessary. Mr. Gage.
Good morning, Board of Directors. So this morning, before I get started, I just want to briefly just highlight Mr. Travis Basham is now our new district engineer. He's present in the room with us today. Just want to highlight that before we head off into the budget. Okay, they're pulling up the slide presentation now. So what I've done in the board agenda packet, you have a memorandum for me that kind of lays out what the budget looks like on the 30,000 foot level, just so kind of level the playing field of what we looked at. Then I have a presentation to go through. It's about 17 slides to go through. We can go through relatively quickly, but it's designed to highlight the key aspects and allow board members to ask whatever questions you want to ask as we move through. Next slide, please. You know, the end result of this is to recommend the board approve the budget for 2025. On this slide, I got a couple of things I would highlight. I went back and researched and looked at the Texas Rural Water Association about what is a budget to us. And this is what I got back. A budget is simply a financial plan for business, and having a budget is an important part of maintaining our financial standing and our planning for the future. So that's what this is. It's not an appropriation bill, but it's a budget, so it's a plan. And that's what we have going forward. There's a few key points in here. This budget was developed with oversight of the Finance Committee. We looked at all our revenue performance and expense accounts in the FY 24 execution year. It does contain the increases in revenue and expenses for operations and water materials. And this point's going to ring true throughout this presentation and many others that we're going to do in the upcoming weeks. That we are seeing a sustained growth rate of about 5.5%. And that equates to about 1,000 water meters per year. And that's what guides us really at this point, because that has been proven by the data to be kind of the sustained path that we're on in terms of growth. And then finally, we are going to ask you to approve the budget at the end. Next chart, please. So in this budget, what I did on this slide, I kind of broke it out in pieces. What the staff was thinking about when we were developing this, we want to develop a budget that had some priorities to it. And the priorities are kind of laid out there in the green bullets. We want to support development, but we want development to make sure that we support it appropriately with dollars that we took in for development, and don't put the new infrastructure all on the backs of our current ratepayers, that our new development would bear those costs to the greatest extent possible. And so that's why, this budget does support development, and I'll show you how we do that. The second bullet, I think, is really probably the most important one. I mean, with 18,000 so meters in the ground today, some of our infrastructure has been in the ground for quite a bit of time. And it's very important that we reinvest back into that infrastructure for our current ratepayers, and then also increase our system's reliability, if you will, to make sure that our ratepayers do get the water that they need when they need it, and it's reliable and it doesn't cut out on them, and we fix leaks as quickly as possible. We want to reinvest so we don't have to do that continuously, and then we maintain our infrastructure. It's really just about buying down future cost, and that's what that category is there. We do have some necessary capital purchases in here. A large portion of those capital purchases are actually water meters. They're quite expensive and they have a long lead time. And so that makes up quite a large portion of our capital purchases. And then finally, we do emphasize some workforce development with this budget. So those are the priorities, the lenses that we looked at the budget through. And I think we'll lay that out in future slides. Next chart, please. Okay, I put this chart in here. This is almost like, I'll just say it up front, it bears some explanation, right? It is not looking at apples and oranges. What this is looking at the past 4 years, so 20, 21, 22, and 23. And these are actuals off our ending statements for the year, right? So these are not budget. So it's a little bit, like I said, there's not apples and oranges here. But it kind of shows you what's going on. In 23, you see that high revenue in 23. That's really attributed, that year, there was a whole lot more water usage that year in 23. We also took in some bonds, that year that it was counted as revenue in the books. So that's why it seems like such an outlier with the other years. But you can see that revenue has steadily increased, but cost kind of steadily increased as well. Personnel costs, operating costs, and direct costs. But that's just a look at the past, not a look at the future. I thought it was important just to put it in there to center us on, the last 4 years. The next chart tries to do the same thing. The next chart, please. Tries to do the same thing with 24 and 25. So on the left-hand side of that chart, you have the FY24 budget, not actuals, but the orange bars are the actuals where we stand today, and we actually annualize those. So that's where we think we're going to end up the year. Now you see the scales are greatly different between 24 when you compare that with 25. The main reason for that difference is in the 24 budget did not include kayak fees or impact fees as a part of the revenue. The 25 budget also includes the rate changes that we had to implement this year. When we get into the details of the 25 budget, you will notice that we are not using the new impact fee that the board passed early this year. It's still under review by TCEQ. We do not believe that that'll be effective until second quarter of next year. So we've used the old impact fee, and we're still using the water acquisition fee at our current rate, and that's the rate of $2,000 that we've had for a number of years now. So those two figures are in there. Kayak fee remains unchanged from 24 to 25. But that's the big difference, right? We didn't include the capital revenue into the 24 budget's revenue stream, so that's why those figures are off. I'll move to the next chart. This is a different way of looking at it. So just as a pie chart, no numbers up there, but it's just to kind of spatially show you in 24, our expenses outpaced our revenue. I mean, regardless of what the budget said, I mean, this is the actuals in 24. We reached into reserves for about $4.69 million in 24 to sustain operations. And that's what you see in the pie chart. In 25, you can see that the revenue has grown significantly, but is not exactly halfway, right? There is about a $3.6 million difference that we'll have to use in reserves to get through 25. This is a good way to look at it because you can see that every dollar that we're taking in, we're putting it out the door on either projects pertaining to growth, which we bring that revenue in for that, but also sustainment projects to take care of our current ratepayers. And once we talk to our auditors, you know, they tell us that it's okay in years of sustained growth, you know, that we will have to reach into reserves to pick up with that. That's essentially what we've done last year, and that's what we're projecting to do this year. There's a couple of levers we could pull to zero balance that out and make us even for the year, but those levers are not good levers to pull. You can either choose not to do certain projects to save money. You can choose not to invest in capital items to save money, and we could save money in personnel. Those are really the three levers that you can pull. None of those would probably be the right lever to pull and to sustain our current customers and the growth into the future. But it just gives you kind of a picture. So that's all the pictures, and I'll start walking through the exact charts now, but I'll just pause for a second to see if any board members have any questions on that. Can you go to the next slide?
Would you prefer that I just speak up or raise my hand for questions?
Go ahead and speak up when you can.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Gage, real quick, the numbers you just gave us show a 44% revenue increase from 22 to 23, from 21 million to 39 million. And then in 24, it looks like you're projecting 16 million in revenue.
That's right, sir. And so I think what the difference is, when you looked at 23, the 23 numbers, that number, that 39 included impact fees, kayak fees, acquisition fees. 24 budget did not. So if you're looking just at water sales, which is that 16 right now, I mean, this was also a very, wetter summer, so we didn't use as much water. So our usage is a little bit down this year. Yeah, so that's the difference. If you added the impact and kayak fees into it, it would be closer, but it would not be as close as 39, if that makes sense.
Yes, and the projected for 25 was how much?
The projected for 25 is 37.2. That includes our rate changes, that includes water acquisition, that includes kayak, and that includes impact. All the revenues are all in the one bucket to equal 27. Our water sales, right, just looking at water sales in 25 is $20 million. That's all the other things that get you up to 37.
24 to 25 is apples to apples.
24 to 25 is apples to apples, with the exception of the impact and kayak was not included in the 24 budget.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. On this chart here, I'll step through, just the revenue, and that's exactly what I was just saying. At the first, water sales is the very top thing. So that's what we take in for actually the sale of our water. That's a variable that goes up with usage, up and down. We're projecting 20 million this year, 20 million, 20.02 million really there. Our acquisition fee is the next line. So 1,000 meters times $2,000 gets us to a $2 million acquisition fee. I do recommend that the board considers acquisition fees, not in this session, but in a future session, potentially this month. And then you can see all the rest of the fees moving down. I will highlight the impact fee is in there now, about halfway down. It's got a footnote number 1 beside it, 3.49 million on that one. And as I mentioned before, as soon as TCEQ approves our rate, that will change to the new impact fee, but we're budgeting with the current impact fee approved by TCEQ. If you move on down, the kayak fees is also listed there. That's calculated the same way as the impact fee, and that gets it on there. Those two items itself, combined with some small changes in some of the other revenue items we do, like billing for GBRA, for Harvest Hills, and for Zip Road, those all have increased a little bit. But that gets you to the total of 37.2 mil revenue for 25. So, any question on that, I'll move to the direct water and wastewater cost.
I do have one quick question.
What we did in terms of budget planning.
Hold on.
I'm sorry.
I do have one quick question.
Yes, sir.
So going to the kayak fees and the what was the other one? Water acquisition fee, those could potentially get adjusted up if we take action?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
So on the impact fee in particular, the board has already voted to move to, what's the number? 7423 is what the board already voted on. That is under TCEQ review. Expect it to be back in second quarter next year. That figure will be revised upward on the revenue side once the new fee takes effect.
But our budget is off of the old rate.
Budgeted off the old one.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
The other thing too, on water acquisition fee, during our regular scheduled board meeting, we're gonna have on the agenda for a review and discussion action item on the acquisition fee. We're waiting for Gary to come up with the data to support the proposed numbers that are gonna be pitched, this month.
Yes,
So
sir.
that's coming, but again, to his point, we're using the budget off of what our current rate is right
Right.
now. So revenue wise, I'm expecting to see that number grow, which is nice to know that, revenue side is gonna go higher, not the cost side. But that's on those notes.
Yes, sir. And on that, on the 26th for the board meeting, we do have it prepared for you to review and consider water acquisition fee.
Thank you.
Moving to direct water and wastewater costs. So what you see here is we know we got good figures from Edwards Aquifer, good figures from CRWA. So this is what our projected costs are going forward in 25. Generally, it represents about a 5% increase across the board. There's one item that I want to call out to you on this one. Let me see which one it is. Sorry, it's on the next page, so never mind. No, it's on this page. Halfway down, CRWA purchase contract addendum of $360,000. When we go into executive session today, there's something to review and consider contractually with that amount. So we're budgeting for that amount. That's related to a debt that we owe CRWA for the purchase of ARWA or HBPU.
HPCUA is what it used to be called.
Hey, there you go.
Hayes Caldwell Public Utility Authority, is that right?
Authority.
So, yeah.
From 2014. So I have the documents to review. I'm budgeting for it, but I will not spend that money until the board takes separate action to authorize the spending of that money. But I just want to highlight that it's included in the budget.
And I do have one question here,
Yes, sir.
Mr. Gage, on the ARWA costs and the CRWA various costs. We've taken budgeting information from those
Directly
entities
from them.
and plugged them in.
Yes, sir.
Because I know with ARWA, we'll be receiving our first water, so the actual cost of water will go up in addition to the debt service. And the same with CRWA, their budget went up pretty substantially. So as long as you've got it captured there, y'all.
We do. So we took the CRWA's budget and those are the figures that we use to project. Now, of course, we all know that usage will go up and down, but I mean, that's what we used to project was their actual figures. One other comment on this, just for clarification too, down at the bottom, there's two footnotes, footnote 4 and 5. What we've done here is try to streamline the budget process a little bit. We used to have Santa Clara O&M broken out as Santa Clara O&M, and then we had Santa Clara plant. And I combined all those together. So in the future, when we get more watersheds online, you're just going to see by sewer shed, right? So all costs associated by the sewer shed. We're going to have 3 of them in the future. Now we have 2 of them. We'll probably have more of them in the future, actually, but now we have 2 of them. So I've categorized them just as O&M, right? And the Santa Clara one includes the Santa Clara plant O&M.
I see your footnote marks.
Yes, sir.
I see them.
Yes, sir.
However, I don't see where we would traditionally put footnotes,
We,
which would be at the bottom, and they're
So-
not there.
So it is on the written budget. So if you go to your tab B, the footnotes are at the bottom. It's not in the presentation.
Oh, okay, it's not in the presentation.
Yes, sir.
That's,
Sorry for that confusion. I
problem.
just cut and pasted this from the thing into the presentation. Okay, moving on to general operating cost. A couple of things on this one. We actually, let me see if it's on. It's actually on the next slide. I don't have anything much to highlight on the operational costs. They are kind of what they are. I will note this year, the director's election, we zeroed out that budget item. We won't have to do that this year, but we will in next year's budget. So we'll see that again in the future, but not for this year. And then the one thing that I did want to highlight was down at the bottom. You see $2.8 million, very last entry. That is our depreciation expense. The depreciation expense has not been included in past budgets, and it's been called out by our auditors that we should include that. I need to emphasize that that's a non-cash expense, but it is an expense. That figure comes off our audit. That's what we use to calculate that figure. We brought it off the 23 audit and we brought it forward. Now we're showing it as a budgeted expense, but it is non-cash.
So on this tab, something historically I've paid attention to and commented on are contracted services and professional services. I'm gonna give you a bunch of benefit of the doubt here that, I believe we've looked at it, have an appropriate number in there for each item. In general, moving forward, I'd like to know what is being billed against those items. As we go monthly, we can talk about a way to do it, but I know Steve will chuckle if I don't bring up contracted services and professional services, because those are, $1.5 million roughly. So for a matter of consistency, that's something I wanted to comment on and try to keep as tight as possible. I think you got me.
With you. What I'll say to you is this, that figure looks very high. The reason why that figure is very high is because we've secured IDIQ contracts with a number of consultants now. We have not given work to all those consultants, but we budgeted conceiving that we possibly would. With the addition of a district engineer office, inside the headquarters, that is a location to find efficiency over the next budget year. We just don't know what it is yet. So instead of showing the board that we're not going to spend anything and then come back to you later and say we are, we do have these consultants, that we contracted with. So I'm contemplating them doing some level of work so that somewhat artificially increases that number budgetary wise. I do not believe we're going to spend that much. But there's a couple of things that are in there that I know we're going to spend. One of those is the wastewater master plan that's already on the street. I do have a proposal for a strategic plan that I'll show the board next week that's included in that number. And then there's some placeholder numbers, right, for, the extra contractors, consultants, that we have. I'm going to find efficiencies there, but that's the reason why it's so large this year. Okay, moving on to the next chart. So personnel expenses generally laid out. So the biggest thing, and I think it's been a tremendous decision, for the district, was outsourcing our HR services. So our HR services only cost us $68 million, $1,000.
Whew, I had a heart attack.
There's so many zeros around here sometimes, but $68,000, right? And that's somewhere around about a $64,000 savings per year from outsourcing that and instead of doing it in-house. That's very good. Our insurance also likely went down on our workers' compensation. Insurance went down by changing companies, so that both of those things are good. On the hourly and salary wages, I've showed the board in previous sessions, what we've done with some restructuring of the organization. This budget includes the ability to add 6 more employees as time goes on. We do still have needs, particularly in construction inspectors. We have a need there. We have some needs for some more wastewater operators into the future, not today, but into the future, possibly this year as we begin more work over at Santa Clara. Those are included. We've also need to add to our water department as well. We did recently lose one employee from the water department, took another job. We'll have to replace him and probably have to add there. So what this budget does is give me the flexibility to give me some flexibility to hire as we need that done. But that's included in the projection hourly wages. There will not be any more salaries added. It would just be hourly employee. Okay, the next chart that makes us all scared.
Mr. Gage, can I back up just for a quick second?
Yes, sir.
You made the comment that you lost one water operator, and you've got goals to add on a few more bodies as needed. Have you done any wage comparisons to other entities to understand that we are paying a fair wage and we are attractive to get people to go to work for us?
Yes, sir, we are. And yes, sir, we have. So beginning in October, we're going to begin a little project here in Green Valley where everyone's going to receive duty descriptions, a standardized pay range, and all those things. It's very similar to what you see on larger organizations like Saul's, for example, right? I mean, where everything is out there and you can see all of our jobs. That's coming. We have compared. There's one point, though, since you ask, on our competitiveness, our medical insurance is not as competitive as others in the industry. That's an area that we cannot affect this year, but when we get into next year, that's going to be something that we need to take a look at. Is those benefits. So that'll be some added cost, but yes, we're comparative with the exception of medical coverage.
Does that insurance cost have to do with the scale of our employee base, perhaps?
Some of it has to do with the group. Some of it has to do with the amount of offset we do for insurance.
Right.
There's a couple of ways to attack it. By comparison, CRWA's budget that was just passed allows for 50% of medical for family covered. At Green Valley, we don't do it that way right now. We do a flat dollar, allowance per month, and it disadvantages people with families. But that's the one area that we are not competitive in that we need to take a look at. There's nothing we can really do about it this budget year. Because of the enrollment cycle for insurance plans. But next budget year, it's something we need to study closely. Answer Mr. Cooper's question.
And on that specific item, that's something that Mr. Hendricks was, leading the charge on earlier, I think you joining us. And the board had, at least at that time, had great support for doing as much as we can do. So I would encourage you to bring back
Okay.
Improvements to that in the future, and then we'll see how we're doing in the budget and try to make some
We
adjustments.
absolutely should. I'm on the bond payment slide now. This one, I pulled this off, right? It makes me a little bit uncomfortable, but I mean, it kind of shows where we are, right? So our principal payments on bonds right now is up there listed. That's what's in the budget. $2.865 million on principal payments. The interest payments is up in the general operating expenses. But I thought these charts were good. This is a new program that we have. What's it called? That where all our bonds we can see in real time, which it's really useful when you're looking at it at the computer because you can move it and it shows you the figures over the years. But I just snapshotted it here. The bottom line is, we have outstanding debt, 157 million, and that's in bond principal and interest. The pie chart breaks it down, right? So 107 in principal, the 49 there in interest, which is, is considerable. But if you look at debt service over time, our own internal bonds, we don't see much relief in debt service until really when we get out to about, really 2050 or so, then things will start dropping off. We know that our bond capacity, at the time to do the things that we must do in terms of our wastewater expansion that we're looking toward this year. But doesn't go on forever, right? I mean, so there is limits to what we can do. So we just have to manage smartly. I thought it was important to show the board exactly where we stand right now with our bonds over time. Okay, no one's choking, so that's good. Okay, next slide.
Well, at least you give us that happy target date of 9/15/2063 when we owe zero to anyone. So
And yes, I'll probably be well retired by then, but okay. This next chart, so in our capital budget items, right? So what we've done this year is if we laid out, just like I've laid out in the memo and in the subsequent slides, this is where we're going to spend a considerable amount of money but it's necessary to do for a number of reasons. The first category up there is capital improvement projects. These are impact fee funded projects, right? And so about $8.4 million goes into there. So it's basically development supporting development in this case. We already have, as you look at our financials next week at the board, public board meeting, not public, I'm sorry, the regular board meeting next week, you'll see we're carrying about 11 million right now in reserve cash for impact fees. So we can well cover this 8.4 million to do these projects this year. There's 12 projects. They're laid out in the written budget that kind of shows you what we're doing with those. That one's pretty easy in my mind for that one. It's necessary to support development. The second category is we do have some wiggle room on this one. This is non-construction capital expenses. You'll see there's quite a bit of funds up there in vehicle and equipment purchases. I'll detail those in a second, but just to highlight the rest, I mentioned earlier, water meters, AMI, $1.224 million. That is a combination of things. That is about 300 and some odd $1,000 that the board approved in February of 24 to proceed with AMI, which is automated meter ability. I don't know what the acronym stands for, but that's what it is. I'm carrying that expense in 25 because the notice to proceed didn't start until well at the end of 24. So the bills will be due in 25. So that's a portion, about 300 or so K of that water meter. The rest of it is water meters. They're expensive with long lead time. That is enough water meters to upgrade the ones that we need to upgrade to support AMI and to have the inventory on hand to look out to 1,000. That's why that number's so large.
I was going to ask you a question about that real quick, because I'm reflecting as you covered the meters. I know we have a huge inventory of, I forget what's diameter meters right now, that if we're moving towards AMI, does that kind of negate the use of the standard meters we have in use? Okay,
Meters we have are Neptune meters, and we have how many on hand?
yeah, I thought it was something like
2,800
that.
on hand, and we need the need.
Okay, very good.
We're purchasing the balance between what we have on hand and what we need.
Right.
Out of those, how many do we have to replace?
Can I ask that whoever's speaking grab a microphone, please?
It was Gina, sorry, we're putting a mic in front of her.
We have set to purchase 2,486 5/8 meters.
Those are your residential ones.
Right. And then as a sidebar to that too, and I don't know if you haven't gotten to it yet, how soon are you looking at the software upgrades, specifically the SCADA upgrades, second quarter, 25, third quarter, and how long will it take perhaps?
It should not take no longer than 6 months to get everything fully online. Maybe closer to 4 months. Starting October 1, we'll dispatch out those services and should be a rather quick project.
Second quarter.
Okay. And I thought about some technical details, but perhaps I'll discuss that out of the context of the open meeting.
Sure. Yes, sir.
What is the target date for finishing the water meter change out? And will that complete the entire budget for the water meters in this year, or will it be completed next year or the year after?
Hey, will you repeat your question?
Let me rephrase.
Go ahead, sorry.
I'll just rephrase it. Are we going to get all the meters changed out for AMR this year?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, Steve, the meters will be changed out this year.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. The other vehicles and equipment purchase cost. So this is the approach that I'm taking for the fleet, right? Just so the full board understands kind of my mentality on this. I'm not buying more pickup trucks this year. I mean, I cannot stand here today and tell you that I've got good enough data to support, changing out some of our service trucks this year. So we're going to wait. What we're going to do is collect our data, collect our usage, make sure we have this fleet properly sized. We've only put one service vehicle in this, and it's for wastewater. And it's just simply because wastewater doesn't have, a flatbed service vehicle to take care of their sewer shed. So I'm not putting that in there deliberately. We do have two excavators in here, one larger excavator. It's a 308 size. That's a particular brand, but it's, a similar capability in all different brands wherever we choose to purchase it. But it gives us a deeper, be able to dig deeper, right? Most of our lines nowadays are going in a lot deeper than previously, and our smaller 306 and 303 mini X's don't go down that deep. And then I also have one other excavator in there, which is equivalent of a 306. That's a mini X that we use mainly. That 306 is going to replace an aging smaller mini X. That aging smaller mini X is going to go to the wastewater side, and the wastewater will now be outfitted with the mini X, smaller one. And that's what we're doing with those two. The largest capital purchase in there, though, is for a vacuum service truck. We do have the quotes, in your budget binders, but I don't want to state the brand of the vehicle that we're looking at buying. But that's what I base the quote on for one of those vehicles. What that gives us the capability to do is it's not just a sewer asset. It also is an asset to locate and to do small repairs in tight neighborhoods on the water side. Sure, it can also do things like vacuum trunk lines if needed. But it can be used on the water and the wastewater side. It's a large expenditure. I think what do we put in the budget? 500. We put 500,000 in the budget. It'll come in under that. But that's not going to a specific vendor. That gives us the ability to find the best deal on that vehicle. The one we selected is not the largest one. It's a 7, I believe it's a 7. How do you say that stuff? Not
Yard,
9.
5, it was a 5-yard.
7 yard. It's 7 yard, right? I thought it was.
I thought it was a
7 yard.
5-yard, but
Okay.
7-yard.
Capacity is what we're looking at. So not the largest one, but that's included in that $906,000. The SCADA, we already kind of talked about that, but I just want the board to be very clear on this. We have some SCADA devices that are no longer updatable. And it's a particular type of SCADA that is no longer manufactured. It's a vulnerability, right? I mean, frankly. So that's what that seemingly large number there is, and the software update is to fix our SCADA where we don't have cyber vulnerabilities. That's what that's all about. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Finally, at the bottom of the page is two biggest items that I think is most important is the first two lines under sustainment and restoration. So what I've done in the budget in terms of trying to equalize our language, so we're saying the right, we're saying what we mean. I'm calling it sustainment and restoration because that's what it is. We are sustaining and restoring our water distribution system, and then we're sustaining and restoring our water plants. So those are what those two items are. Those two items together give us about 17 projects that we are literally reinvesting back into our infrastructure this year for our current customers. That is all current customer focused right there, taking care of our ratepayers. So that amount of money between those two things in general terms equates to the amount of rate increase, right, that we did. So it's right back into our distribution system to provide value for our ratepayers. The rest of that is self-explanatory on there. The reason why you do have the $166,000 for a capital project professional services there, I don't know why this is, but we kept it this way this year. Last year, we broke out professional services under each one of those projects. So we just kept that broken out as a budget item under these two things. I'm not sure why we did that, but we just carried it forward from last year just so we're. Any questions on that information?
I'm going to make a couple comments about this page.
Yes, sir.
The board will recall that I have been pretty particular, maybe say harsh, is that a correct word? Pretty critical, thank you, of some of these items. Staff has done an excellent job in presenting what the projects are. You know, we list 12 of these capital projects. We've got another 7 of the sustainment projects. We've got a lot going on. Vehicles, moving on to the next thing, has always been another one of my critical items. You present it well. You convince me that we need this stuff. It's big dollars, but I agree that we need it. You presented the data and I appreciate that. I do want to caution us. So we have 19 projects by my count between the sustainment and restoration. We have 7, and then in the capital improvement, we have 12. That's a lot to do in 1 year. Don't overload yourself. Don't overload staff. You know, get the money's worth out of everybody. Get what we can out of our consultants, but we have to be able to inspect it properly. We have to have the staff to do it. My suggestion would be we have the money budgeted to do all of this. If we can't accomplish all of it well, consider scaling back. And as you get to that point, just brief us on it. And I think everyone has seen the amount of effort that staff is putting in lately and is happy with it. I just caution us to not push too hard and not accomplish it well. So that's my only comment there, but very well presented. The data is here. The background is there. That's what I need to see, which I know the directors that have been around for a while know that this is not always the song I sing. So I wanted to recognize that.
Thank you for that, sir. And then the next 3 slides are actually the detailed projects, right?
So
Yes,
one thing before you move on to that, I do want to just echo what you were saying earlier, and just to make sure everybody's clearly understanding that the 8% increase on water and wastewater is being reinvested back into sustainment and restorations. It is not going to other things as far as operationally or vehicles. That increase, sole earmark is sustainment and restoration. So the customers who are paying that increase are going to start seeing the results from that directly on new piping, new meters, other things that they need to make sure that the water's nice and clean, delivering to our aging infrastructure. 60 years of it in the ground. We got to start making the efforts on replacing some of this stuff. And I appreciate you guys working on specifically giving back to the ratepayers directly in that form. So that's the only comment I had on that one.
Just a quick question too on one item on your projects. You mentioned, I could have sworn I saw another one where we are going to purchase a generator for Plant 3. I could have sworn there were some other ones, or were they purchased and put in place? I wonder. We discovered a bunch of them right after the freeze in 21 that not only us, but CRWA didn't have backup generators for a lot of stuff.
So I'll highlight those as we go through. So
Oh, no need. I mean, it just occurred to me that was a hot button a couple of years ago. And at that time, I think, Nick, perhaps you can shed light on this. There was an extreme backup on getting things like that.
A lot of folks in the region discovered that while they may not be, and water was not required to provide backup generation, wastewater is required, which is bizarre to me. But a lot of people discovered, hey, we want backup generation, and everybody put in design with engineers and put in orders with manufacturers, and there is a backup.
Yeah.
The RWA is still working through the generator design project that we had started after that last freeze event.
Yeah.
So everyone is working through it, and yes, it is hard to get generators, but the
Gotta start
sooner we
somewhere.
start, the sooner we order, the sooner we get them.
Right.
I could second that. My previous life, we had the same issues.
So why don't you go through the next 3 slides, kind of fast track those, and everybody can understand where you're at.
next 3 slides are, let's go to the next one. This is just capital improvement plan charts. These are the ones that are impact fee funded. So these are relatively self-explanatory. These projects are going to support development that is coming online, and all of these mainly pipes. 1 generator at Plant 3 supports that. The next chart is the non-construction capital items. I've already kind of detailed this I should have went to this chart earlier because it shows you the number of meters that we're purchasing of what size and type is all laid out and detailed there with their cost. And then the next chart is water distribution sustainment. So going to Mr. Sherman's point, some of these projects we're actually going to be able to do within. So this, our water crew back there can also do some of these small, we're going to leverage everything. And not everything's going to go to a contract. That's something we can do. Oh, I'm too far away from the microphone. I'm sorry. You'll notice on these projects, the bottom three, we pull forward, right? This was not in the original budget, but those are generators for water storage facilities that we have out in our system right now, that we discovered. We knew this, but we're reprioritizing to ensure we have backup power to them. After some recent challenges we had with backup power in our system. So we actually pulled those projects forward in the master plan. And put them onto this year, all generators for those three plants. So it's really the construction part, Mr. Sherman, is really just those top four projects. The generators, of course, has some design required, but relatively low on the construction part. The last chart is just a sustainment restoration. I do want to highlight one project on this one. So right there in the dead center, number 5, restoration, design, and construction of Plant 10. So Plant 10's in existence today. It's over near McQueenie. There's 500,000 gallons worth of ground storage tanks, 250s out there. Right now, it's currently not in the system. So this project is designed to restore those back up to service, to get it back into service, and do some necessary pipe changes on it. So it's actually in our system storing water. We have excess capacity that we're not using right now with empty tanks. We want to fix that. So that project is laid on to do that in this next year. And matter of fact, we already have a consultant working on that one. Westwood is a consultant engineer that's looking at that project. I just want to highlight that one to you. And that's it. So I think the last slide, any more questions, discussion, we can go anywhere the board would like to take us. Go from there.
Mr. Gage, I would like just to say for Mr. Sherman's inquiry about the 19 projects, if you notice the list, Mr. Sherman, of the 19, 8 of them are land acquisition, a combination of land acquisition and generator. So it's not truly a lot of grounding and pounding running through neighborhoods and such.
If no questions, please continue. Sorry, I just flipped the other page. I guess that's for us. I thought there was more to all this stuff after this part, but
I will comment. The rest,
yeah.
in your binders, right? The rest of that information back there is it's everything in the public agenda, but it also includes some items that are quotes from others that we have internally. We'll keep those. Have all the information we use to build the budget.
Okay, well, first and foremost, I want to thank everybody who spent the time working this. Gina, thank you so much. I know you've put in countless hours. Gabe, Kim, Travis, can't say it just yet. Sorry. But I mean, everybody's contribution to this. This is by far one of the best presented budgets I think that have ever came from staff. And I know the board is pretty proud of this. The finance committee, you guys, putting in your input and your time and effort, the hours. I mean, I am so proud of this. And
Best budget.
it is.
And I've been here a while.
Best, clearly articulated, transparent, information that I think we can trust and, feel confident that we have a good plan in place for FY25. I don't have any other questions. This answered everything and some. With that, does anybody else have any questions? Mr. Cooper, you good on your end?
Thank you. I'm fine.
My only comment is I sense a little bit of Colonel Gage somewhere in this, and he brings things to the table that we never thought of. I'd like to compliment Well, the whole, like John said, the entire staff put a lot into this. And I'll echo that. I've never seen a budget like this in 3.5 years. So
Mr. President, you ready for a motion?
Are you
I'd
ready?
like to make a motion that we adopt, what's the right word? The budget for fiscal year 2025 as presented.
Second.
Yeah, I have a motion by Mr. King, a second by Mr. Sherman. We'll do a roll call vote. Mr. Cooper?
Aye.
Mr. King?
Aye.
Mr. Sherman?
Aye.
Ms. McDaniel?
Aye.
Mr. Freeze? Aye. Mr. Hendricks?
Aye.
Mr. Robertson?
aye.
The ayes have it. The FY '25 budget is approved and accepted as presented. Thank you very much for everything. Yes.
I think that's the
Awesome.
GVSUD first.
Setting new records. Awesome. Okay, now that that is done, and we are going to move to item F, review implementation date for new rates for FY 2025 and take action as necessary. Mr. Gage.
Okay, board, this would be relatively quick. So in August 22nd, you have approved rate increases. I believe it was August 22nd, correct? We immediately, the following month, it was August 9th. I can't remember the date. I screwed this up. On the 19th of August, our bills went out notifying our ratepayers of a 1 October start date of the new rates. The billing company, PMSI, that does our billing, a bunch of bills that go out, failed to put the flyer inside the bill. So it was written on the bill that rates were changing on 1 October, but the bill did not include the insert in it. The 30th of August, the inserts went out. They are received by most folks about the 5th or so of September after the Labor Day holiday. So the information got out. In accordance with our operation policy, our own policy, we are supposed to allow 30 days notification to our ratepayers of rate changes. We met it with the bill. We did not make it with the mailer. So just what I want to recommend to the board for consideration and take possible action is to delay the rates effective from 1 October to 19 October. And effectively, we will put out our bills on 19 September that we're delaying the effective date until 19 October. And that gives maximum benefit of the doubt to the ratepayers if they did not get the notification in time, and places us in compliance with our own operations policy. We can do that. The bills go out on the 19th of September. So, this week we'll include that at the top of the bill if that's what the board wants to do. There's really two choices here: to maintain the 1 October effective date or to delay it to the 19th of October. That's what I'd like to put on the table for board consideration.
And I know we've talked about this, but can you reiterate the budget we just approved factored in this situation with the acceptance of the October 15th or 19th?
Right. So essentially what you're going to see, there would be a delay anyway, right?
Okay.
So by delaying 19 days, if you started on 1 October, it would be a prorate period on the next bill that would run out on 19 October. So it's really marginal. There's not going to make an impact at all to our revenue projections. It's not variable anyway because of usage. But to give the benefit to the ratepayer, we can slide the effective date. They will not actually pay that bill until the following month. So you wouldn't actually see the increase on your bill until.
Okay, so that would be a part of the closeout of FY '24 really before we start seeing. Okay, got it.
It's delayed.
Okay.
Can we address that today, or it's got to wait till the regular meeting?
No, we can, that's why we have it on the agenda right now
Okay.
to do that.
Didn't
part.
look far enough. Thank you.
And did we appropriately chat with the billing company and let them know how displeased we are?
We were well appropriately chatted with.
Okay.
Uh,
Did I say that
Just to be
politely?
completely transparent with it, so the third party billing company is actually a part of Logix. Logix is our operation system that we run all of our bills and customer files through. So we don't have a whole lot of choice, right, on who we use, but they very well know that how important this was to us, and they corrected it as quickly as they could.
So in next year's FY '26 budget review, when we do the rate increase or decreases, we'll do that a little bit sooner to not run up against this.
Be much sooner.
So
Have a
we'll
long-
have that on the calendar during our October meetings.
So I agree with your suggestion that we should give the maximum benefit of the doubt. And if anyone doesn't have any more discussion, I will make a motion that we delay the effective date of the previously approved rate increase to October 19th, 2024.
Second.
We have a motion by Mr. Sherman, second by Ms. McDaniel. All in favor?
Aye.
Mr. Cooper?
Aye.
Thank you.
Aye.
Ayes have it. All right, thank you for that. Moving to item G, accept certification of unopposed candidates and adopt order calling for cancellation of the November 5th, 2024 election of 2 directors and take action as necessary. So this year we had Mr. Cumby and Mr. Hendricks put in their applications without a third candidate submitting their name for the positions. We do not need an election. For our bylaws, we only had 2 open spots. So by default, Mr. Cumby, we welcome you in November. Mr. Hendricks, guess we'll keep you.
A line item for his.
But,
software, too.
But yes, so with that, do I have a motion to cancel the election?
I'll make a motion to accept certification of unopposed candidates and adopt order calling for cancellation of the November 5th, 2024 election of 2 directors, period. Also in Spanish, but
Second.
I won't say that.
Second.
Thank you. I have a motion by Mr. Sherman, second by Mr. King. All in favor?
Aye.
Mr. Cooper?
Aye.
Thank you, sir. All right, moving to item H, review and consider the corrected CCN transfer agreement with the city of Schertz and take action as necessary. We missed the C in Schertz.
Good morning.
So-
So during the course of working on the Schertz settlement CCN transfer agreement, the staff found a deficiency in the mapping. And as it turns out, the mapping that was agreed by both parties, Schertz and Green Valley, was based on the property description lot size as opposed to the CCN mapping software. And it resulted in a discrepancy of about 3/4 of an acre on one set of tracks. And because the PUC is so stringent in their requirements, we felt the best way to get this finished and across the finish line was to present a corrected version for official approval by the board. And that way I'll have official minutes at the regular board meeting in September to submit to the PUC as verification that we properly noticed approval of this corrected agreement.
And we're talking just a fraction of an acre.
3/4 of an acre.
Since we're going over budgets and everything, I just have to ask the question, how much is this 3/4 of an acre costing us legally? How much did this mistake cost us? Or will it? Because I understand that we probably haven't finished billing all of our lawyer fees yet. That's a Shan question, probably.
I understand.
Ballpark.
I mean, if you want me to ballpark,
Ballpark.
probably less than $1,000 from me. But you have the engineering fees related to correcting the mapping as well. And some coordination with Schertz. I don't know.
No.
Less than $2,000.
So
Okay.
I'm going to go grab another Mountain Dew because I have to ask, we had a bunch of engineers, a bunch of lawyers. We had lawyers from 2 different cities, 3 different cities at least, and they're all using the wrong damn map. Is that what happened? They're not using the CCN map on a CCN litigation. They decided not to use CCN maps. Are you telling me that at least 3 cities, at least 2 law firms made the mistake of not using a CCN map over a CCN lawsuit? Can we please just say that on record?
I can't really disagree with your characterization. I do understand that it was a junior staffer at one of the engineering firms that used the wrong process. And we're having to make up for it. And you're right.
Okay, thank you for that clarification and thank you, James, for that commentary. We are going to be moving for a motion on that one. It'd be to
Give them more
accept,
money. That's the motion.
no, the motion would be under to accept the corrected CCN transfer agreement with the city of Schertz so that we can close out the dispute.
I'll make that motion.
Okay,
You say it out loud.
if you're all right.
I make the motion that we accept the corrected CCN transfer agreement with the city of Schertz.
Seconds.
Okay, I have a motion by Mr. King, second by Mr. Robertson. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Before I give my vote,
I will abstain.
you're abstaining.
Okay, Mr. Sherman's abstaining.
Before
Mr.
I give
Cooper
my
said
vote, this
aye.
better be the last time that this many lawyers and cities figure out there's another mistake. From me finding a very obvious mistake in an executive session, that my call probably saved us several $1,000s as well, to now we're not even using the right maps. This better not happen again, or we better not hear about being charged for it. That's for damn sure. Aye.
Okay, the ayes have it with Mr. Sherman abstaining. Thank you very much for that. We are moving to item I, hear updates on the items below from GVCD General Counsel and take action necessary. Mr. Rutherford, do we have any
No updates for this special meeting.
updates? Okay, thank you for that. This time we're going to go into executive session. Time,
Mr. Frias, I have one question.
sorry, backing up.
We have Mr. Cumby here. Can he join us in executive session or not yet?
Not yet.
Not yet. Legal saying no. Okay.
All right, Mr. Cumby. Don't worry, you'll have plenty of years to do it. Okay, executive session is time, 10 o'clock. We're going to close session in accordance with Texas Government Code Section 551.071-551.074. Upon matters of which the attorney has a duty to report, takes under the rules of disciplinary conduct, items J and items K. Thank you. Mr. Cooper, can you please go to the other teams? And then we're going to take a 5-minute, 10-minute break in between, Mr. Cooper.
Thank you.
So, all right, we good, David? All right, Mr. Cooper, you can hear us?
Yes, sir.
All right, so time is 10:19. We're coming back into open session. We're gonna go to post-executive session items L, consideration of possible action on items discussed in executive session. Mr. Sherman?
I'll make a motion that we authorize the general manager to execute such documents as are necessary to fully and finally discharge all claims related to the contract for sale of part of CRWA's ownership in the HCPUA contract as amended in amount not to exceed $1,134,207.53 paid at the rate of $30,000 per month until that liability is fully liquidated and upon such other terms and conditions as are necessary in the general manager's discretion.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion by Mr. Sherman, a second by Mr. King. All in favor? Aye. Mr. Cooper?
Aye.
Thank you. The ayes have it. Thank you for that. We're moving to item M, consideration for proposed items to be included on next month's board meeting agenda. Do we have any last minute requests? Okay, those should be going out this Friday. Moving to item N, motion to adjourn.
I make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Time is 10:20. Thank you, Mr. Cooper. Be safe on your travels back.
Thanks, guys.
All right, bye.